Hey folks, Sean here, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about a path to success in SaaS that is often not talked about because it's relatively unsexy and it's slow and steady wins the race. Now, what I'm describing for you here is the fact that everyone is often intensely focused on how do I maximize my MRR, ARR right out of the gate and achieve these crazy exponential levels. I'm sure you've heard of before people referring to the hockey stick growth curve. That's where your revenue traditionally takes a significant uptick in the upward trajectory, in that you might have been seeing low or like kind of just steady plateauing from a revenue perspective. Maybe you've seen a little bit of growth over a period of time, but then eventually it increases at an exponential rate and it maintains that for an extended period of time. It's talked about a lot, especially in the VC and startup backed world. And everyone's always saying, well, where's your hockey stick or growth trajectory like curve? They call it a hockey stick because that type of a graph is often shaped like a hockey stick. Now, that's the part that everyone focuses on. What they don't tell you is that vast majority of these businesses never hit something like that, although it is possible. Now, the other thing they don't tell you is how long it takes to potentially reach a level like that, or depending upon the strategy that you've decided to pursue, whether you're going the investing route or you're doing the bootstrap route, which I'm much more of an advocate for, the element of time and commitment that it takes in order to get there. I talked about this a little bit in one of my latest podcast episodes. Ben Watley, who is the founder of Memrise, which is a language learning application, software as a service business, typically positioned to people with mobile phone devices. So it's a mobile phone application. But he talked a lot about this as well too, in terms of how long it might take in order to reach the level of performance that you're really looking for, and that there's really not a good predictor in terms of how much commitment you're going to have to invest in order to get there. Biggest key by far is to build what you're doing in a sustainable way so that you can stay in the game. I've seen a clip recently from the My First Million podcast where one of the hosts shared a similar story where it was a group of founders. They were hanging out. I think they were all living in the Valley at the time, but they were hanging out with each other and just sharing ideas, tips and tricks while they were building what they were building. And in their group, for all of the folks that stayed in the game, didn't give up, eventually they were all wildly successful. But that might have taken 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. There was a wide range of how long it took them all to get there. The key was, what the common factor they all had was those that stayed in it eventually were successful with it. So that's a really important part of trying to achieve success in this world. And this is another reason why I think bootstrapping helps tremendously, because it can stop the clock. If you're able to bootstrap and invest in your own business or reinvest in your business with the proceeds from it, then you're able to essentially continue making progress seemingly indefinitely until you decide at a later date what it is you want to do with a business like that. But if you're going the VC route, you're going to have to raise check after check, and they're going to encourage you to hire as fast as possible, make progress as fast as possible, and the vast majority of the time that never happens. So I would rather see you keep a 9 to 5, start working on learning these concepts, building what you want to build, bringing products to market, nights and weekends, or with whatever time that you have available, and then make progress slowly but surely. Then eventually, what you might see is, even as a bootstrap business, you might hit hockey stick level growth curve, but that might be several years down the road. However, if you've stayed in the game, if you've weathered the storm, and you've continued to make your product better and better over time, and that market has continued to grow, your success will continue to follow that. And you will be in control of seemingly everything the entire time. It will, when the success like that eventually arrives, it will be a business that you always wanted, more than likely than any of these other paths that are being pushed on people rather aggressively and talked about the most. What I'm describing for you now is not talked about a whole lot because it's less sexy. It's basically just saying diet and exercise will give you the kind of life that you want. That is largely true. And this is the diet and exercise version of what success looks like. Now, they don't talk about it because it's not, a crazy overnight success story or an insane 24/7, work schedule, sleeping in the office kind of thing. But I've never understood how that really made any sense to begin with. Anyway, I've done that and I wouldn't do it again. It was just kind of goofy, realistically. But the thing that is really attractive to this is from your perspective and my perspective, it gives us control, allows us to do the things we want to do with our business, including work on them when and for how long that we want to. And then eventually, if you continue to do so, you continue to learn, you continue to get better, the success that you're ultimately likely to achieve will probably follow a similar path. It just might take a little bit longer, but when you do get there, you'll maintain the majority of the control, you'll reap the majority of the reward, and it'll just largely be more than likely the type of business you wanted it to be from the beginning.